How did you meet Storm?
How did I meet Storm? Storm came up to me at Freestyle Session 3 and gave me a hug. And I was like, who the F is this unshaven white dude?
Is that when they did Flying Tortilla?
This was that day, yeah. But see, the thing is, I had already seen Storm on video, but crappy VHS tapes where I couldn't see his face, right. not clearly. So when
him and Speedy,
and I had no idea how he knew who I was, but he walked up to me and gave me a hug. I didn't recognize him because he looked different in person than on this crappy VHS tape. And after a few minutes, because he was introducing me to his wife, and he was introducing me to. I think Sugar Pop and somebody else, and because of who he was introducing me to, I was like, wait a minute,
this guy must be somebody.
Not only is he someone, I think he's Storm, because like I knew that they ran in the same circles, and I was like, oh, it's Storm. And like
you're all starstruck.
My demeanor completely changed. I was
starstruck,
and I did not expect to battle him that night, but that's what happened.
Oh, legendary! Like I remember, with the flying tortillas, and I was like, oh my God, it's Storm, like because everyone saw his head spins, and it was like a superhero, pretty much. I remember that. That was a crazy battle. As far as the future goes, what kind of advice would you want to give the future generation? So let's say 20 years from now, what would you want to tell a dancer or somebody getting into the scene? What kind of advice you want to tell them?
There's so many answers to that question. I will give the last obvious answer, which is as much financial education as you possibly can, as early on as you possibly can, because now you have the opportunity to become professional right off the bat and to be around professionals right off the bat, which means that you can start to earn an income a lot sooner than all of us did. Right. It took me years to make any money dancing, let alone to make it a full career where I could quit my job and just dance. You can do that right off the bat now. Get people to teach you, or get the education whatever way you can, to know how to save, how to invest, how to spend less than you make. Like the number one thing that no one seems to know how to do
it's crazy
in hip hop is
on the street.
Don't buy all the fancy shit. Just I dressed really poorly, partly because I was poor, but also because once I started to make money, I didn't want to spend it all on fancy clothes. So I kept dressing with kind of whatever clothes that weren't really interesting, and I hardly bought any shirts. Like almost every shirt I've ever danced in was given to me. But
really, sponsorship.
You know what I mean? Like I've spent very little money on gear, but that's just step one. I mean, like you got to save, you got to invest. You need to understand what assets are. You need to own those assets or figure out how to own those assets. You need to learn how to manage debt properly. You need to learn how to not see debt as the enemy, but see it as a tool to eventually leverage assets, which is a whole other conversation. But that's what you and I do, right? With real estate, able to eventually own real estate, whether it's for you or it's for someone else, your family, or even to own as well.
Kujo is now in the B-Boy Billionaire Club. We're gonna give you guys some leads, okay? Napoleon Hill, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rome, Bruce Lee, Benjamin Franklin, Genghis Khan, Napoleon, Alexander the Great. You can have digital mentors, people that are digital mentors for you. And it could be the same thing in dancing.
Like Rich Dad Poor Dad, the one thing, a couple of my favorites. So much of this information is free online, YouTube, podcasts.
What are your thoughts on the scene right now, the whole dance community? That's big.
That's a very large question.
Things that could be better, aren't that great.
I don't know if it could be better. It's amazing. I love seeing the evolution. I love seeing what people are doing now. I love seeing how everything that everyone did in our era and the era before ours and the era after ours, you can see some of that in everyone. Right. And it's not as segmented as it was. Like back in our days, you had people that were just style heads. You had people that were just power.
Style versus power.
Just abs.
Socks versus no socks.
Yeah, and that. Helmets and no helmets.
I know. Remember the helmet, no helmet was a big deal?
I go too far in the past. You don't have those issues.
They were older guys.
You had like people that were just footwork heads, just power heads, just abstract, just this, just that. They were very specialized, and now almost no one is specialized. Almost everyone is very generalized. I don't mean generic. It's not the same word. But generalized, where everyone has a lot of fluency in all of this and a lot of influence from these specialists from our time. I was very much a specialist in my own kind of way, and you can see that influence in certain people. Not everyone, of course, but you definitely see some of that in certain people. And if you don't see me in a lot of the b-boys nowadays, you might see people that were inspired by me. And you can apply that same statement to so many b-boys from the 90s and the 80s, but also the early 2000s. And you can say that, like, for example, like you would see Storm and Crazy Legs and other people in me if you knew what you were looking for, and you'll see that in people that were inspired by me, and then people were inspired by those people that were inspired by me, right? And so on and so forth with every other b-boy from our era. And I think it's incredible because you're just, it's so much. It's
a unique scene.
Concentrated and complicated, and if you know what you're looking for, you can see all these details. If you know, if you have fluency in the vocabulary of the culture.
Yeah. And like one of the battles of like style versus power was Stylums versus Renegades. Like that, yeah.
You need to have at least some fluency in everything in order to go anywhere, to even make it to the first round, let alone get past the first round and win.
It's hard enough to just get to the top 16 nowadays. You know what I mean? Like you got to be like superhuman just to get there and then go through the rounds. But actually, you know, I don't know in your experience, but like in battles that we've been in, it actually gets, depending on where you're at, it actually gets easier as the rounds go on because you get more comfortable. But nowadays it's like a whole different beast. You know, it's like a street fighter. You're fighting. You need a ton of rounds, and it's a lot different than it was back when you were just practicing a cipher. Now you have these competitions. So competition b-boys versus like cipher b-boys.
Yeah, amazing what people are doing now because the level of stamina that you need to even participate, let alone excel and win, is so much higher than it needed to be when we were competing because, you know, we didn't train for these long one-on-one battles. We trained for crew battles or we trained for ciphers, you know, where like a cipher battle, yeah, you might go 20 rounds, but they're 10, 20 seconds each. Right. They're really, really quick.
Just snap, boom.
Yeah, you know, like, and it's, and then when you had your crew battles, like you would kill it and kill yourself in that round, and you wouldn't have to go out again for 5 minutes. Like you wouldn't be able to stand up for those 5 minutes. But then, you know, after 5 minutes of rest, you can go do it again. And you don't get 5 minutes now, especially in these one-on-one battles. You get 30 seconds, and you have to be able to continue at that high level. And
with lights and like you have that breath control.
Not very many people can do that, but in order to participate in what this culture has evolved in, competition-wise, you need to be able to do that to get anywhere, let alone to win. Right. It's incredible.
Yeah.